You're not going to believe this, but last year I lived on less than $10,000. And no, I wasn't miserable. In fact, I traveled, I ate well, I slept peacefully, I saved money. But the road it took to get there, most people would never dare to try it. That's what this video is about, not just how to spend less, but how to radically reshape your relationship with money, so you can live more freely than you ever thought possible. If you stick around, I'll show you exactly how I did it, step by step, and how you can start living extremely frugal without feeling like you're punishing yourself. Let's go. The word frugal gets a bad rap. When people hear it, they imagine a sad plate of plain rice and beans, a freezing apartment with no heat, a lonely life with no fun, no joy, no adventure. That's not frugality, that's punishment. What I want to show you today is something totally different. Because real frugality, extreme frugality, is about freedom. Not the fake kind you see on Instagram. I mean actual, powerful, game-changing freedom. The kind that lets you quit a job that drains you. The kind that lets you take a spontaneous trip without wrecking your savings. The kind that lets you sleep at night without anxiety hanging over your head. But before I could live like that, I had to hit a wall. A few years ago, I was drowning. Bills stacking up, rent rising, credit cards creeping higher and higher with no end in sight. I was doing everything right. Working hard, paying the minimums, trying to keep up. But I was exhausted and afraid. That fear became my turning point. I didn't read a book. I didn't take a course. I sat down one night, opened a notebook, and wrote at the top of the page, "Where's all my money going?" And for the first time, I forced myself to look. No sugarcoating, no justifications, just truth. It was ugly. Late night takeout, streaming services I barely used, random Amazon buys I couldn't even remember ordering. That gym membership I hadn't touched in months. It was like death by 1,000 tiny cuts. Nothing huge, just constant quiet bleeding. So I decided to try something radical, just for 1 month. I canceled everything, Spotify, Netflix, that monthly subscription box, that automatic donation I set up 2 years ago and forgot about. Everything went on pause, no spending on anything but rent, food, and essentials. It was hard. I'm not gonna lie. At first I kept reaching for distractions. I wanted to order food when I was stressed. I wanted to buy something just to feel good. But after about 2 weeks, something strange happened. The noise in my brain started to fade. I wasn't constantly chasing tiny dopamine hits. I wasn't trying to escape boredom with buying. I was just here, present, awake. That's when I realized something no budgeting book had ever told me. Being frugal isn't about saving money. It's about buying time. Let that sink in. When you cut your expenses in half, you're not just saving money. You're creating space. You're shrinking your obligations. You're buying time. Time to rest. Time to think. Time to breathe. Time to ask what you actually want. Most people don't realize this, but every dollar you save is a fraction of your future you just reclaimed. Think about that. Let's say you earn $20 an hour. If you spend $200 on a weekend of treating yourself, that's 10 hours of your life gone. Now imagine doing that every week. You're literally trading days of your life for things that don't even make you happy. That hit me hard. I didn't want to spend my life working just to keep up with stuff I didn't even care about. I wanted freedom. So I started asking a new question before every purchase. Is this worth trading my time for? And when you start looking at money that way, everything changes. I want to give you a quick exercise. After this video, I want you to look at your last 10 purchases. Pull up your bank app, just glance through, and ask yourself, did these purchases move me closer to the life I want, or further away? Most of mine back then were little lies I told myself, tiny comforts that kept me from facing my deeper pain. But here's the good news. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to live like a monk. You just need to become intentional. I didn't stop spending altogether, I just started spending on different things. Instead of buying more stuff, I started buying experiences. I said yes to hiking with friends, potluck dinners, $1 library movies, long walks with podcasts, game nights, nature, silence, rest. And honestly, they were better than the $100 dinners or overpriced nights out I used to think were necessary. Frugality didn't make my life smaller, it made it deeper. Now here's where things get real, because you might be thinking, that sounds great, but what about fun? What about travel? What about joy? Here's the secret no one tells you. When you remove the junk, the joy comes back. Because your joy isn't in the object, it's in the meaning. A cheap homemade dinner, cooked with love, eaten slowly, can feel more abundant than a $70 meal you scarf down at a noisy restaurant. A quiet afternoon reading under a tree can feel more luxurious than an expensive weekend at a crowded resort. You start to realize, you weren't chasing luxury, you were chasing peace, and frugality is the doorway to peace. Let me share a moment with you. One evening a few months into this experiment, I was sitting at my tiny kitchen table. It was dark out, I had a candle lit, I was drinking tea I bought for $3, reading a library book, and it hit me. I've never felt this rich, not because I had more, but because I finally needed less. That's the real unlock. And that moment changed me forever. But I want to pause here and ask you something. What's your reason? What's your why? Why are you watching this? Do you want to pay off debt? Quit your job? Move to a better place? Travel more? Build something of your own? Whatever it is, hold on to it. Because that's what will carry you through the hard moments. That's what will keep you going when everyone else is giving up. Extreme frugality isn't about self-denial. It's about self-possession. It's about owning your life. Taking it back from the hands of marketers, credit cards, distractions, and false expectations. It's about knowing exactly what matters, and ruthlessly cutting away everything that doesn't. Let me tell you something wild I did. And I'm not saying you have to do this, but it changed my life. I moved out of the city. I gave up the convenience, the buzz, the expensive coffee shops, the constant pressure to keep up. And I found a small, quiet place where rent was cheap, groceries were simple, and nobody cared what shoes I wore. It wasn't glamorous, but it was peaceful, and that peace was priceless. Now I know not everyone can move, but can you downsize? Can you negotiate remote work? Can you cut your commute? Can you rent out a room? There's always something, and when you stop assuming your current life setup is permanent, the doors start opening. You begin to see how much of your life is negotiable. You don't need what you think you need. You don't need the newest phone. You don't need constant takeout. You don't need a perfect home. You need space. You need clarity. You need your time back. And that's what frugality gives you. You'll hit resistance. You'll feel the pressure to go back to your old ways. Your friends might not get it. Your parents might think you're going backward. But let me ask you something. What's more radical? Living paycheck to paycheck so you can look normal? Or building a life of freedom on your own terms? I know which one I chose, and I'll be honest. It was lonely at first. But then it got good. Really good. You start to meet people who value simplicity. You start to attract opportunities that align with your lifestyle. You start to feel powerful. Not because you have more, but because you need less. That's real wealth. And if you're still here watching this, I know you feel it too. You're not just looking for budgeting tips, you're looking for a different way to live. This is it. Frugality is not a sacrifice, it's a strategy, it's a mindset, it's a superpower in a world obsessed with more. So if you're ready to go deeper, I've got more for you. In the next part of this video, I'll walk you through my actual system. How I live well on under $800 a month, how I budget, how I track spending without obsessing, and how I stay frugal without feeling restricted or miserable. Subscribe if you haven't already, because that next part is where things get tactical. And if this resonated with you, tell me in the comments, what's one thing you're spending on right now that no longer reflects who you want to become? I read every one. You ever look at your bank account and think, where did it all go? I used to do that, every single month. I wasn't buying yachts or designer bags. I was just doing what everyone else around me was doing. Grabbing coffee on the way to work, ordering takeout because I was too tired, paying for apps I hadn't opened in 6 months. Nothing outrageous, but somehow I was always broke. And here's the part that hit me hardest. I wasn't just spending money, I was spending energy. I was spending freedom. I was trading peace of mind for convenience I didn't even appreciate. But once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it. So I made a rule. Every dollar had to earn its place in my life. And I'm telling you that one mindset shift changed everything. Let me show you what I mean. One day, I sat down and printed out my bank statements. All of them. I went full detective mode. And what I found shocked me. I was spending over $200 a month, just on food I didn't remember eating. Snacks, lattes, impulse burritos. It was like death by 1,000 small bites. So I ran an experiment. I gave myself a tiny food budget for the week, enough for the basics. I told myself, let's just see what happens. And you know what happened? By day 3, I was cooking again. I was experimenting with spices. I was rediscovering what food actually tastes like when you're not microwaving it at midnight. But more than that, I started feeling proud. Like I was reclaiming a part of myself I'd forgotten. That's coming up again later, because it didn't stop with food. Frugality, real frugality, isn't about restriction, it's about awareness. It's a superpower once you dial it in. You start noticing how much you're marketed to, manipulated, nudged into spending on things that don't even align with your values. And suddenly, choosing not to buy becomes an act of rebellion, of freedom. Here's where things get interesting. Once I stopped spending money like everyone else, I stopped living like everyone else. And that's when the emotional shift began. Friends would say, "Why don't you come out tonight?" And I'd pause. Not because I couldn't afford it, but because I'd rather put that $30 towards something meaningful. A weekend road trip, a future investment, something mine. But yeah, it wasn't easy at first. There's this weird tension when you start making different choices. People notice, they tease you. "Oh, you're going all Dave Ramsey on us now," they'd say. I'd laugh. But inside I was grinding, staying focused, because I knew where I was going. And if you're still watching, you probably know where you want to go too. You want options, you want control, you want to sleep at night without your brain screaming about overdue bills. You want to say yes to what matters and no to what doesn't. That's coming up in a second, because we're going to talk about one of the biggest frugality traps almost nobody sees coming. But before we get there, quick gut check. Think about this. What's the last thing you bought that you didn't even really want? Something that felt good for 10 seconds, and then just sat there, still in the bag, still untouched, still haunting your budget. You don't have to confess it in the comments, but if you're bold enough, drop it below. You'll probably find out you're not alone. Okay, ready for the trap? It's lifestyle creep. The silent killer of savings. You get a raise, and suddenly your coffee gets fancier. Your car gets newer. Your weekends get more expensive. You earned it, right? That's what we tell ourselves. But the truth is, you didn't upgrade your life. You just upgraded your expenses. And now your freedom's trapped behind a nicer lease and a subscription to 5 streaming platforms you barely use. That's what happened to me. I got a better job, more money, and guess what? I was still broke. Why? Because my habits didn't change. Only the price tag did. And I realized, frugality isn't about how much you make. It's about how much you keep, how much you protect, how much you invest in your future self, not just your current impulses. But stay with me, because I'm about to show you how I broke that cycle, and how you can too. It starts with clarity. I made a list. Not of stuff I wanted, but of feelings I wanted. I wanted peace. I wanted space. I wanted mornings that weren't rushed. I wanted nights where I didn't feel guilty for relaxing. And every dollar I spent from then on, it had to serve one of those things. If it didn't buy me peace, time, growth, or joy, I passed. Period. Sounds simple, but try it, for 1 week. Ask that question before every purchase. Does this buy me peace or just a distraction? That's the test. And once I passed that test enough times, something shifted. I started feeling powerful. And here's where it gets a little weird, but real. Frugality began changing how I saw myself. I used to think of myself as a spender, someone who couldn't be trusted around Amazon deals or late-night cravings. But now, I see myself as someone who's intentional, someone who respects their own time, energy, and future. It's not just about money anymore, it's about identity. I'll give you an example. I used to have this habit of scrolling through new arrivals on fashion sites when I was bored. It felt harmless, just browsing. But somehow, a few clicks would turn into a $70 charge on my card. Clothes I didn't need, styles I'd regret, and then I'd feel that guilt. You know the one, the quiet shame that comes from knowing you betrayed your goals for a quick hit of dopamine. But when I got serious about frugality, I did something radical. I unsubscribed from everything. Emails, sale alerts, social media ads. I deleted the apps. I even blocked certain websites on my phone. And guess what? I didn't miss them. What I missed was the time I used to waste. So I started using that time differently. I went for walks, I journaled, I called friends. I sat in silence and actually listened to my thoughts. Some of which, by the way, were begging me to slow down and stop chasing shiny things. That kind of silence. That's where your values get loud. And if you're still watching, I know you're feeling some of this. I know you're starting to imagine what your life could look like if money wasn't slipping through your fingers. If your peace wasn't being auctioned off for stuff you don't even care about. That's what's next, because in the final part of this video, I'm going to show you how extreme frugality didn't just save me money. It helped me build a life I actually want to live. And trust me, it's not about being cheap. It's about being free. That part's coming up, and it's where the heart of this whole thing lives, so stay with me. Here's the part nobody talks about. The part that actually changes you. When you first start living extremely frugal, it can feel a little awkward, like wearing someone else's clothes. You say no to little things. The fancy coffee, the delivery dinner, that cute but unnecessary thing in your Amazon cart. At first it kind of sucks. Everyone around you is still buying without thinking. You feel like the odd one out. You start wondering, am I just being cheap? Am I missing out on life? But then something flips. You start seeing what no one else sees. It's not about what you're giving up, it's about what you're building in silence. And that building part, most people never get there, because they quit too soon. They think frugality is about restriction. But what they don't realize is that extreme frugality, when done with intention, is actually the fastest way to unlock real freedom. Let me tell you a story. A few years ago, I was drowning in expenses. Not just financially, emotionally. Every time I opened a bank statement, I felt this tightness in my chest. I wasn't even living lavishly, but somehow, I was always one unexpected bill away from chaos. A flat tire could ruin my whole month. A friend's birthday dinner could tip me into overdraft. I felt like I was working just to tread water. And then one night, I had this moment. I was sitting in my car, eating drive-through food I didn't even want, scrolling through stuff I couldn't afford, watching strangers live fake rich lives on Instagram, and I just thought, what am I doing? That moment, that quiet, weird, kind of sad little moment, was the beginning of everything. Because I realized, I wasn't broke because of one big mistake. I was broke because of 1,000 tiny, unconscious ones. So I decided to wake up. That week, I started cutting first the easy stuff, streaming services I barely used, random Amazon purchases, gas station snacks. Then I got bolder. I sold furniture I didn't need. I stopped driving everywhere. I meal prepped. I learned how to fix things myself, and every time I said no to something, it felt like I was saying yes to something bigger. At first I thought I'd last a month, but then I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Control. And control is addicting. See, being extremely frugal doesn't mean you're depriving yourself, it means you're designing your life. Every dollar you save on things that don't matter is a dollar you can spend on what does. And that's where the power is. You stop being a consumer and start becoming a creator. You create your future. You create space. You create peace. And peace, let me tell you, is a feeling worth chasing. Now, I know there's a voice in your head right now, that skeptical one. But what if I don't want to live small forever? What if I miss out? What if I can't do this long term? Let me tease something here. Later in this video, I'll tell you exactly how this kind of frugality evolves, how it grows with you, and why the people who stick with it don't end up living small, they end up living smart. But first, let's talk about this. There's a moment that happens after a few weeks of frugality. A kind of secret superpower starts to kick in. Your brain stops craving quick hits of dopamine from buying stuff. You start noticing things, like how much you enjoy your morning walk now that you're not rushing off in your car, or how good it feels to make dinner from scratch, or how light you feel knowing you don't owe anyone anything. You stop needing stuff to feel whole. And that's when it happens. You stop feeling broke, and you start feeling rich. Not because you've got $1 million sitting in the bank, but because you've finally broken the chains of consumption. You're not reacting anymore. You're choosing. That's real wealth. I remember this one day. I was walking home from the grocery store, reusable bags in hand, homemade coffee in a thermos, sun on my face, and I had this weird moment where I just felt completely content. Not buzzing, not excited, just grounded. That was the day I realized I wasn't just being frugal anymore. I was free, and I want that for you. Seriously. I don't care if you make six figures or struggle to pay rent. Extreme frugality isn't about your income, it's about your intention. So here's the challenge. Cut just one thing this week. One thing that doesn't truly serve you. That random midday snack run, that auto-renewed subscription you forgot about, that drive-through habit you're kind of over anyway. Just one. And instead of just tracking how much money you save, track how it makes you feel. Do you feel clearer? Lighter? A little more in control? That feeling? That's your first win. And it's addictive. Now, before we wrap, I promised I'd tell you what comes next, because frugality isn't a destination, it's a foundation. Once you get good at it, and I mean like really good, something wild happens. You start having options. You can say no to jobs that burn you out. You can start your own thing. You can take a year off. You can help someone in need. You can invest. You can breathe. And here's the twist. The longer you live like this, the less you even want to go back to the old way. You're not scared of spending. You're just really intentional about why you spend. You become unshakable. And unshakable people build unshakable lives. So let's zoom out. What did you learn? Extreme frugality isn't about shame or sacrifice, it's about waking up. It's about realizing that money is just a tool, and that every dollar you waste is a dollar you could have used to build your freedom. It's about realizing you don't have to keep up, you don't have to chase, you don't have to play the game. You can write your own rules. And if you've made it this far, if you're still here, you already know this. You already feel it. You're not here because you want to clip coupons and punish yourself. You're here because you want your life back. And friend, you can take it, right now. So here's what I want you to do. Take one tiny action, just one. Comment below with what you're going to cut this week, and what you're going to do instead. Maybe you cut $10 in takeout and finally read that book you bought last year. Maybe you skip that impulse buy and spend time with someone you love. Whatever it is, write it out, make it real. Then subscribe. Not because it helps me, but because you're officially stepping into a new way of life. And this channel, it's here to walk with you. We're building a life of freedom. A life where your money serves you, not the other way around. A life where every choice you make adds up to something real. So, if you're ready to stop living on autopilot and start living on purpose, hit that button. Join the community, and let's do this together, because this isn't the end of your story, it's the beginning. And if this video gave you that little gut feeling, that spark, don't ignore it. That spark is how every great fire starts.